Welcome back, gang. We are live with another episode of the podcast. I'm super excited to be joined by a special guest today, Paulo Oliveira, coming all the way from Brazil. So we're going international with the pod once again. Paulo reached out and we connected over a lot of similar topics that we've been following, from philosophy to overcoming hardships to dealing with adversity in our own lives. And I'm really excited to have you on the show, man. Thanks for joining.
Hey man, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to share some of my life experience and maybe inspire someone around the world.
Yep. That's all it takes is one person, right? You share
Yeah,
your story, you're vulnerable, you put yourself out there, and all it takes is for your story to hit home with one person, and then you can potentially create that positive change in that person, and it moves throughout the entire world, right?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm excited. I haven't had anybody from Brazil on. I'm half Brazilian, and you live over there. So maybe you could give a little introduction to who you are, what you do, and just give the viewers an understanding of your life.
Nice. Yeah, you said that you are half Brazilian, but unfortunately you don't speak Portuguese. But that's okay. So my name is Paulo Oliveira. I'm from Brazil. I live in Curitiba. It's in the south of Brazil. Maybe you don't know where Curitiba is, but it's a famous town, no, because if you watch UFC or if you like mixed martial arts, it's the city of Anderson Silva, né, the Spider Silva and Vanderlei Silva, Maurício Silva, enfim, a few fighters came from Curitiba, so it's known for their fighters. But well, I work here as a lawyer. I work with copyright, trademark, and I'm very passionate about music. Music is my passion. It's where I work with artists, especially with copyrights. What else? And I really love to study self-development, philosophy, spirituality, even alchemy, in all these occult studies and these things, and stoicism, and everything. I feel all these things about growing up and being a better person. It's all that makes me and made me come here today to share some of my life stories, and as I said, maybe inspire someone.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Yeah, so Paulo and I connected last week on the phone, and we just talked about generally, his journey through these personal development modes of thinking and how it's helped him overcome some serious hardship and trauma in his life to ultimately end up in a place where, he was saying that he found his purpose. And so I want to dive into that, man, like to talk a little bit about your whole arc, your whole character development, I guess, if you will, to getting to a place where you feel like you have found your purpose in life and you're doing something that like really resonates with you. And as you talked about being a lawyer and being in a specific industry in Brazil that allows you to do that, there's not many people in the world that can say that they're doing that. They're truly pursuing your purpose. So what was that like, discovering that? Did you always feel like you knew what direction you wanted to go in, or was it kind of a long process to get there?
No, actually, for many years, I felt really confused about what I was doing. But inside of me, I knew that I always wanted to work with what I like. But I didn't know myself. I didn't know what I like. So how can I work with what I like? So I started this self-knowledge, self-discovery path to know myself better. So I discovered that music, as I said before, music is the great passion of my life. But I worked as a lawyer and I worked as a civil lawyer before. And I don't know, for me, I used to hide this thing about music from me and for other people. Instead, I listened to a lot of music the whole day, but I used to, kind of hide this thing of music from me. I didn't accept that too much. So, and as a lawyer, I don't know, in my head, I thought that lawyer and music didn't combine so much. So it's when I accepted this, when I started to discover myself, when I started to know myself, that I found, well, I have to work with music. As a childhood, my childhood memory was always to be a rock star. So unfortunately, I didn't become a rock star. So I found this career now where I can work with music, work with artists, let's say in the background, and helping them in other ways. I'm not actually playing and doing shows and traveling all around the world and all this stuff, but I'm helping them from other ways. And I'm working with what I like and what I'm really passionate about. So I can say today that I work with what I like. I feel 100% working with my purpose. Of course, it's not really easy to find, but it's something that I can say that I'm really proud of myself, that I'm working with what I like. And when you work with what you like, it feels like all these things started to how can I say, to work it out, work it out. Things turn a little bit easier. Of course, you have to face some challenges. In my case, I started a whole new career, so I was a beginner again. I had to to study. I had to knew some people that work with the same thing. So it was really hard. But today I can say that I 100% that I work with my purpose, and I'm happy this way.
That's incredible, man. So when you said that you started over again, how far along were you in your career at that point where you decided, you know what, I'm going to completely pivot and try something new. I'm going to start from square one to build myself back up. How long were you, how far in your career were you?
Oh, actually, I wasn't too far. Now I graduated as a lawyer in 2016, and all this turning happened 2 years ago. So almost 10 years now I was working, but I felt really lost. So I cannot say that I was really far in my career because I felt lost. I tried one thing and it didn't work out. So I tried another thing and it didn't work out. And because I didn't know what to do, so I tried a lot of paths and none of them really completed me. So I started one thing and didn't go through this. Didn't go beyond and being someone in that path. So it was just when I found my real path, my real passion, that now I started to work, to walk, and didn't stop. Answer your question, I wasn't too far. Of course, I had a few years of I was working as a lawyer, but as I said, I started one thing and did the finish, and started one other thing and it didn't go well. For me, for myself, in my case, I think the things didn't work out because it was really connected. Because I didn't like what I was doing. It's when I really started doing what I like that I find my path, and now it's no way to giving up and looking back. And now I find another thing that completely more. No, this is not gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah. Once you start to kind of work in an area or a field that you love or that you consider your purpose, you start to find all these little side quests, little paths in between, your main purpose, which is, it sounds like your main purpose, for example, for you would be being a lawyer in the music industry, but you have these side quests that might come out of that where you might be able to work with one specific artist or provide them legal guidance or get involved in, helping them develop into the most, protected or develop into the artist that they potentially could be, the maximum artist that they could be. And so those things I feel like it's just a part of the journey once you really start to lean into that. Once you really start to go after it, you find those little things that make you a more complete, a more talented, more skilled version of yourself. So I think it's really interesting, when you dive into that and you start actually committing to something, you find all those little side quests. And so I'm curious about that too, because I think you had mentioned that you also have some, you're working as an entrepreneur, helping music artists develop in one way or another. So I'm just curious to hear more about that from you.
Oh yes, one of the things that I realized about myself is that I really like to be an entrepreneur. It's one of my passions, also as music and law and being an entrepreneur is one of my passions. To be an entrepreneur, it's not easy. Also, to have a lot of, as you said, side quests. But now here in Brazil, I work with the intellectual property. That is the part of all of the laws that work with the creativity. You can protect the creativity of the people as artists with the copyright, and entrepreneurs work with trademark, that's protecting the trademark of the companies. Here in Brazil now, you can register this trademark and you protect the entrepreneurs. So I work with them, helping them to protect their trademarks. For me, it's the most important asset of a company is the trademark, because when you look, for example, when you look at mobile and see an Apple, you know what that means. It's the trademark that the company has is the most important thing, the most important asset. So I help the companies, the entrepreneurs protect this. I don't know if I explained it really well, but
yeah, protecting their their intellectual rights, protecting
yes,
their trademarks and rights to music too, because I hear a lot about
yes,
this, like Taylor Swift was in the news, right? This week, I
yes,
think, for purchasing, what was it,
yes.
$350 million for the rights to all her music. So how important is that for an artist to have that sort of ownership over their creative work?
Taylor Swift did something that really changed the whole music industry. What she did was something really genius. She was really, really genius what she did, and changed the whole game of the game industry, because what she did was something that no one ever talked about, and she just did and really worked it out. So congratulations to Taylor Swift. What she did was really, really, really incredible.
So why was that? Was that just because nobody, I mean, I've heard about other artists buying their rights and selling their rights. Was it because of the way that she did it, or her tactics, her strategy, or just the amount of money that went into it? Like, what made it so special?
Yes, what happened is because the music. Well, you are an artist. You have a music, so you go and records this music. So you have, when you listen to Spotify, this is so who owns these records? It's always the, I forgot the word in English. The
The
artist
label, right?
the label. Yes, yes. Yeah, think it's, I forgot. Yeah, the label is
Mhm.
the company who owns the music, the music that was recorded. So Taylor Swift, their first 6 albums, the label that she was into, I don't know, I think in 2019, they sold all of the records of their six first albums. They sold the records to another, to a person that was her enemy, and she was really sad about that. That I couldn't buy my own music. So what she did, she how can I say in English? She recorded again her music and said to to her friends to listen to this music and don't listen to the old music, no, the original records. So the fans bought her idea and started just listening to these songs that he wrote. She re-released
Yeah.
the same albums that the label owned. She re-released the same musics, but doing herself. So the fans bought her idea and just started to listen to this music that she re-released, and the old songs that the label owned started to decrease. They didn't have streams, they didn't have plays. So now she bought again these old songs of from the records, the label. So now she owns the music she re-released and the old songs that was released from the label. I don't know if I could explain it. It's a really, really tough start to say in English.
No, I got you though. So she basically recorded a whole set of new albums that were the same, or maybe, better quality or whatever, from
Yes,
the ones that she
yeah,
originally
it's called
recorded.
the Taylor versions. It's called the Taylor versions.
The Taylor versions.
Yeah, she re-released the songs to the fans to not listen to the songs that was owned by the label. And this label was owned by her enemy, as she said was her enemy. So we released the songs, and the fans started to just listening to the songs that she did all again.
Wow. And so she told the fans the reason why, right? It wasn't like this hidden thing. She was just
No,
like,
no,
hey guys, listen to these because I'm trying to get back at this label.
yes, it's kind of this, and now I think last week she bought again these old songs that was owned by another label. She bought, now she's 100% owns her musics, the
Mhm.
old ones and the new ones that she release again.
Wow. That's a power play by Taylor.
Yes,
Well done.
yes,
I mean, that's a savvy business move too. You don't think that she's thinking about that kind of stuff. I don't know anything about her, but like she doesn't come across as that type of scheming businesswoman type, but that's really smart play from her.
yeah, for
I
sure.
also read that I was going to say that she got him for a discount too, right? Because she released the new music and everyone was listening only to the new music. So the old music, like you said, started to get less streams. It started to get less plays. It was less popular. And so the value went down. So she was able to buy it at a discount, right? She bought it at a much cheaper value.
Yes, exactly. And all of this was just possible because of the contract. And it was just possible because you didn't have anything in the contract that said that you can't release new songs. So she
Mhm.
talked about this and released new songs and said, "Hey, fans, listening to the Taylor versions just," and the history was made.
Wow. That's incredible. Good on her. Good on her.
Yes.
So I wanted to just kind of pivot here. We were talking, going into your career as a lawyer and, sort of what you're doing on the side as an entrepreneur, helping folks out, possess their intellectual rights and manage those things. How has it been, working with creative types and trying to speak with them so, about law. Like, I feel like creatives are kind of like head in the clouds. They're trying to make music, they're trying to make art, and they don't necessarily always focus on those really important topics like legal topics or law or anything like that. Has that been a challenge for you trying to communicate with them? Like, you need to do this, you need to do that, or has it been pretty okay?
Yeah, good question. Because as you said, the artist, what all that he wants to do is just doing music and doing shows and earn money. The artists that they don't really care about the law, the legal stuff, and all these things, and even copyright. That it's a hard and it's a hard subject, and not anyone that wants to know about the copyright. But
Hmm.
for me, I would not say that it's easy, because I'm an artist also. I'm a DJ here in Brazil. I try to work as a producer also, but I'm a DJ. I play guitar, so I'm really into the music. So as I said, I'm a artist lawyer now. I see myself as an artist lawyer. So it helps me to connect with the artists that they are the same as me. When I talk to them, it's like talking to myself, because I'm an artist. I have this artist soul, so it's kind of easy. And the artists don't really care about the legal, and all they want to do is their music to get a lot of plays in the streaming and all this stuff. So as a lawyer, you have to be beside them and say things that many times they don't like the things that you say. Hey, you can't sample a song that you didn't get the license, the original artist didn't give you the permission to use the sample or to remix this. So as a lawyer, I have to, as I said, I have to connect with them with my artist soul, because being an artist, it make the things get a little bit easier. I say, if someone wants to work with this and doesn't have a passion for art or something, maybe it'd be a little bit harder, because I see that working with artists, with arts and whatever, music, movies, and paintings, you have to have this passion from the arts that helps you to talk with the artists and the people that are doing all this creativity work.
Yeah, it's kind of like, if you're a soccer coach or football coach and you don't play the game, you never had that experience of playing the game, your players
Yeah.
aren't necessarily going to listen to you as much as they would somebody who is a legend. Like, to say, if Ronaldinho was your coach, like, you're going to listen to him versus some guy who's like coming in and doesn't have the same experience or background, and who you haven't watched as a kid growing up.
Yeah,
So I feel
exactly.
like you have that deeper level of connection with your clients.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said before, it's when I find my passion. I'm working here with my passion. So all these things are connected. Now you work with your passion, so you work with people that are working also with their passion. So you connect. So and when you work with an artist, I see myself as it's something that I'm working with myself, because I'm an artist and I connect with the artist. So
Yeah, yeah, it all starts to come together too when you're going
yeah,
after that, when you're really pursuing it. Feels like the stars align, the universe
yeah,
starts to just give you not handouts, but it gives you good fortune because you're going after something that's so important, and people can see that too. People know, and the energy that you bring to a conversation, whether you're truly into it or not, it's like very easy for people to tell that. And I think the universe acts in a similar way. I mean, not to get too like out there, but I do think, spiritual or whatever, but I do think that there are ways that the universe will reward you because you're acting in a certain way, you're acting in alignment with your passion and your true purpose. Do you agree with that, or do you hold like similar beliefs about spirituality and kind of how the universe will give back to you?
oh, for sure, 100%. Because in the beginning I said that I always wanted to work with what I like. I just didn't know what it is, and then I realized it was music. But when you work with this energy now that is inside of you, and you give this energy for the people that you work with, all the things started to working out. And as you said, like the stars and the planets, they are aligned, and things started to work it out. Of course, you have some side quests and challenges, and in my case, I started to work again as a beginner. I had to learn all this subject again. I have to learn this subject from zero, from scratch. Here in Brazil, at the college, you don't have the copyrights last thing in the college. So I have to go out and start new courses, reading books, watching videos. So I had to, like I did, I had to have again another college from copyright. So it was a challenge. It was a challenge doing this. So it's not because I work with my passion that everything is fine, everything is beautiful. No, you have some, you have challenges, you have side quests, but when you're working with your passion, with this energy, you still learn to be bigger than these challenges in your problems.
Hmm. Yeah, it's not all just glory and, fun times, right? It's like you actually have to do the work. I think a lot of people get this funny idea about kind of the topics that we're talking about, like the universe giving back to you. They feel like, oh, if I just sit down and meditate, or if I sit down and do my manifestation, or I write something down, it's going to come true. And it's not true at all. That's not how it works. Like you have to actually go out and take action, aggressive action, like you're saying, going to get the second degree, to go back to college, to go back to university and study, hit the books, try and find, your way in the career, in the field. There's hard work involved. And I think a lot of people either don't want to admit that, or they just want an easy route, or they want a free pass or something. But there's no way around that. You really do have to get the reps in for years and years and years until you get there.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I think one thing that maybe some people didn't take this action is fear, and fear for being a beginner again, doing all this thing again from starting from scratch. And of course, you have the fear, you have this shame to be a beginner again, and all this thing. But I don't know. Something that I didn't really care much about this. I faced this as a challenge, so I accepted to be a beginner again, and had to knew some had to new people again that work with all of this. And for myself, now for me, as I said, I'm 100% working my purpose. But I talk to people here, and they say, I don't want to work with my purpose. I just want money and stability. For me, that's fine. I don't care about purpose. I just want a hobby. Just do this in the weekends. I don't want to work with my purpose. If I have a job that I have a money, I have stability, I can pay my bills, for me, that's fine. But I say, okay, that's fine. I know there are people that don't really care about this. But for me, as I said before, I always wanted to work with what I like, and I went after that, and I found so. And I know that, as I said, some people don't care about this, and that's okay. But there's a thing called midlife crisis. Maybe you've heard about this, and people in their 40s and their 50s, they work as lawyers, as doctors, engineers, or whatever, started to think, oh, what I'm doing here, I had all this money, I have all this material stuff. So is this worth? Maybe I should do something to make a difference in the world. So it's something that happens not for everyone, but you have this thing called midlife crisis that maybe you've heard some people that are doctors and they gave up everything, they go to the beach and start working as, I don't know, they started working at a bar on the beach and all these crazy things. But as I said, some people like this thing about purpose, some people don't. But maybe sometime it hits you later in your life.
Hmm. Yeah, at one point or another, I feel like it's gonna come up. And if it comes up when you're 40, 45, 50, like you're saying, and you have a mortgage, you have two kids, you have bills on bills on bills, like that's the worst possible time for you to try and start something new. It's never too late, right? Like you can always go out, be the bartender at the beach, or do a whole new career path, but it just gets so much harder at that point in time. And you're kind of burying yourself. You're limiting your chance of actually making that pivot and finding something that aligns with your purpose by delaying it. So like we're both, relatively young, and it's easy for us to say, but, I think people need to start thinking about this earlier rather than later. Like don't put too much pressure on yourself as you come out of college or high school to find something immediately, but like always be working towards it. I feel like every step or every role, job that you take should kind of keep you going in that direction, like keep building your skills towards eventually finding that thing. And then maybe you won't have that midlife crisis, but it's never a guarantee, because things can change. Something that's fun now, 10 years from now, maybe it's not the same, and maybe you get tired of it. But when you find your purpose, right? Like you know deep inside, you're like, okay, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm just gonna keep at it for as long as I can.
And you said something interesting, because when you are younger, it's easy to take these challenges and these side quests and face it all again. When you are getting older, you start to think more about, should I take this path? And do all this and face these challenges. So it's easy to when you start younger, because if you fail, it's okay to you start over again. And when you get older and you try to this new stuff and you fail, the down is really really deep, and you get really, and it hurts more. And that's so when you fail and you are older.
Yeah, yeah. I think people need to just stack up those losses as early as possible. I know it sounds crazy to like go for a loss, but for me, like you want to get those out of the way early. You want to take risk and stack up your losses, even though everyone expects to be winning all the time. But like the more that you try and fail, you get that out of the way early enough to where by the time you're, in your 30s or 40s, you're so far along on the right path, and you start stacking up huge wins instead. At that point, you've had enough time to take those losses, adapt to them, learn from them, and excel in whatever field you're in.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, speaking of losses, I'm curious what your big L's or your big difficulties that you've run into as you've explored this path towards finding your purpose. Does anything come to mind that you've had to overcome?
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I think I have a great major point of my life where it all began. It was in 2014 when I lost my dad. I was 22 years old by that time. I am now his only child. I think it's when I felt that my life really started. It's when I lost my dad, that I faced death. That's the first time that I faced death in my life, that I started to realize that, well, someday I'm gonna die, and this life's short. So I have to do something that I like. I have to make a difference, maybe make a difference in the world, and work with in this thing that started with, I have to work with what I like. I have to do things that I like, and most of all, I don't want to die with regrets. When I die, I say, oh, I should have done more of this. Oh, I should have worked with this. One thing that when I lost my dad, that I promised myself, I will not die with regrets. From now on, I'm going to do things that I like. Of course, I'm not going to explode everything and doing a lot of crazy things, and I don't care about tomorrow. Not this thing that the live fast, die young thing, but I try to, first of all, know myself better, to forgive myself, forgive my past, try to understand myself, be my best friend, being someone that I really care. And it all started with this loss. And when I really faced death, for me, when I faced death, I started to think, well, about all these shortness of life that this talked about, about self-development and growing up, started to come with me. Of course, it was not easy, but something that I learned is always to take the best of every situation. And when I lost my dad, of course, I have the grief. You always have the grief inside of you, but you start to live, to learn to live with this grief and take the best of every situation. For myself, what had happened was that, as I said, I want to really make the difference in the world. For somehow, I don't know if I'm gonna really make a difference, but I'm trying to work with this, trying to make this happen, and work with what I like. For me, for myself, it was my career that I tried to find a purpose on my career, on my life. It was when I accepted the music. I realized, oh, music is great of my life. It was obvious to me, but I didn't, as I said, I didn't accept this. But in short, death was the thing that when I lost my dad and I faced death and realized the shortness of life, that made me think about all of this. And I had this courage to start from scratch in a career. So I don't know, for myself, it was when I faced death that it all began. All these turning points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm so sorry to hear that, man. And it's never an easy thing to deal with, tragedies or hardships like that. But in some cases, after you come out on the other side, you can look back and say like that was the turning point, like you said, or that was the jumping off point for me that I needed. And something, like that, a tragedy, it's never going to be good, and it's never going to be easy. But on the other end of it, you can look back and say like, that was probably what my dad wanted, or that's what that person would have wanted me to do. They would have wanted me to take that and turn it into something better, take that tragedy and turn it into a triumph for yourself, and I think it's a really beautiful journey, and I think a lot of the most important career journeys or life transformations do come out of hardship and tragedy. I know personally for myself, like I wanted to start this whole thing for a long time, and I never had any sort of thing. There was nothing holding me back. There was no reason why. It was just me like debating whether I was going to get judged for it or whether people were going to talk down on me or whatever. And the only time that I really felt compelled to do it was when I had to have like a surgery situation that came up where I was in the hospital for weeks and I had time to think. And I started thinking about those same things. Like life is short. There's only so many days that we're granted on this planet. So we have to do something to make it worthwhile. We have to go out and take a leap and try something new and not do stuff that's boring to us, not do work. Of course, there's always going to be boring work, but like we can't just always be doing stuff that doesn't light us up, that doesn't light our passions up. So yeah, I think that's a really beautiful story, man. And yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think that's a good message of hope for anybody else who's potentially going through a hardship like that. What you can turn into out of that hardship, right?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. And as I said in the beginning, if I could make a difference in the world for for one person, for me, that's the worthwhile. So as I said, it's not, but it wasn't easy to face all this situation. And I'm not saying that death is something beautiful because about 2 years ago, I lost one of my childhood friends. It was really hard. Last month, I lost a dog. It was my first dog that I lost. It was also really hard to face this. But for me, it's when happened these things with death that again made me realize again, oh, am I taking the right path? Am I doing what I really like? Am I being a better person each day, 1% better each day, or doing things that make me a better person? Am I being a good son? Am I going to being a good friend? When this happened, it made me realize all these things. And well, it's somehow death is something I think for our culture here in the Eastern, it's death something that people don't really like to talk about. They don't really like to even say the name death. Now, I don't know here in Brazil, people that I know, they don't even like to say the word death. Now they say when someone died, they say from other ways to not say. They think that maybe if you say death, it will attract the death. So I think when you start to think about death, the Stoics had this quote that is memento mori, that is something that means that you think about death, think about the day that you die. It's not, of course, it's not a beautiful thing. It's when you started to do this that you really started to live, to really started to want to live your life. And as I said, doing things that you like, doing things that you feel better, and of course trying to know yourself, because it's not easy. It's Greek quote, know yourself. So it's really hard to know yourself. So each day I'm trying to know myself better also and it all began with this facing the death and think about the shortness of life.
Yeah, that'll give you a lot of motivation for a lot of things. Um, in your career, your hobbies, your passion, your friends, the amount of time that you spend with the people that you love. Like it really is a perspective shift all across your life. And yeah, it sounds like you were able to alchemize that into something positive. So that's all you can ask for, I think, coming out of those situations. Yeah, I think the Stoics were spot on with that. I'm not sure who said that. Did you say who said that? The Memento Mori?
I don't know which of them said this. I know it's a Stoic quote. I don't know who said that, but
yeah, no, that sounds spot on for their philosophy. So what would you so let's say you're talking to somebody who's coming out of college, they're 18 or 20 or 21, and they're trying to find their purpose. They want to do something that aligns with their purpose. What would you tell them to try? Like what advice would you give somebody to try and find that purpose for themselves?
Well, first of all, know yourself. You have to know yourself, know what you like. I know it's not easy. I didn't know myself. So you have to observe yourself, to watch what you like, watch the things that you like on your childhood. As I said, my childhood dream was to be a rock star. So I realized when I was a child, my dream was to become a rock star. So really, it is connected with the music. Now I used to listen a lot of all these rock bands, and I wanted to be like them. So I said I want to be a rock star. So first of all, know yourself. Now remember what you liked when you was a child, because when you was a child, you were really pure. And you didn't have this ego and all the stuff that society put in you, that what you have to do, what you don't have to be, what you have to be, what is your job. So for myself, was when I started to look into my child now, the things that I liked when I was a child. So know yourself, first of all. Know what you like, know what you don't like. It's also important to know what you like, what you don't like. And if it's possible, if you can combine what you like, what you're really passionate about, and if you can combine this with a job and with a career, well, that's great. Of course, I'm not saying that you have to work with purpose and you have to work with career. You can do this thing with a hobby, doing this in the weekends, doing this as activity, well, doing this as, I don't know, something that completes you, that you feel 100% yourself. So first of all, know yourself and don't give up, because it's not easy. It's gonna happen, these challenges and these hardship times and all this stuff. But first of all, well, I would say don't give up and be yourself. It's a really cliche word, be yourself. And everybody say, yeah, be yourself. But in the genuine way, be yourself. Now try to remember what you like, what you used to like when you was a child, and that activities that you feel that complete your soul.
Hmm.
And also
Yeah, I love those. I think the only
don't be afraid if you have to start over again. Don't be afraid to change the way you are, what you work. What will people say about this? As I said, be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I like those a lot, man. I think the only thing I would add to that is to not be afraid to experiment. I think this goes along with what you were
Yes.
saying about to start over again, but try different things out, try different fields out. Take opportunities that are going to allow you to continue to build your skills rather than going after the money, going after the bag the first time you get offered it. I think that's just something that people get caught up in. They go after it and they start having more freedom, financial freedom to invest in certain things. But that's when that you get stuck in that trap, and that's when you feel, oh, I'm financially secure, so I can buy a house, I can have a kid, and then 5-10 years go by, and then next thing you know, you're the midlife crisis guy moving to
Yes.
Rio de Janeiro to start bartending. Like it's so easy for that to happen, but people figure that out if you experiment. If you experiment early, because you have this such a low bar and such an ability to bounce back, because you can try and fail 10 different times and you'll still be 35 years old and you can still try, you can still attempt to figure out what you want to do. There's just an infinite amount of possibilities that you can do, and your energy levels are so high when you're young, so it's like it really doesn't make sense to start working in one job and like stick with it unless it's your purpose and passion and you love it and you don't want to do anything else for the rest of your life. But that experimentation I think, is the foundation of eventually getting there, because you make little tweaks and you learn and you build more skills, and then eventually you can fit into that purpose that you're looking for.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, don't be afraid of this experimentation. And I remember Gary Vee used to say a lot this. You are fucking young, man. Go out and do all the things in your life. Don't care about what people are saying. You are now. In Instagram, he has these reels that the people, I'm 30 years old, I'm 35, I'm 40 years old. I don't care, man. You are young. Go out there and do your stuff and go live your life. Don't stop until you're proud of yourself, So, and
Mhm.
when you was talking, I remember this Gary Vee quote.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's on point with that for sure. I mean, what he did was he was probably I think he was in his late 30s when he started.
Yes.
He was working at that wine shop and he started social media, right at the point where it just completely blew up. But he was blogging, like he was working in a wine shop until he was in his, I think, late 30s, until he actually started to get like more aggressive with the social media marketing and the whole agency, and he took it to the moon.
Yes, for
So
sure.
yeah, yeah. There's 100 examples of that. People who decided in their 30s or 40s or even 50s that they're deciding, I'm gonna start my enterprise. I'm gonna start my business. I'm gonna change careers. I'm gonna pursue this random thing, and it becomes absolutely massive for them and changes the world. And like, yeah, thankfully people are willing to take that risk, and I think all of us can too.
Yeah, for sure, man. 100%.
Yeah, man. So what other things are you working on, like in the self-development space? Like what are you trying to improve in your life, and anything come to mind that you're really focused in on right now?
Well, I do every day. I meditate every day in the morning. I try to journaling also. It's something that keeps my head clear and also helps me to know myself better. In the end of the day, sometimes I forget to this, but I try to always remember 5 victories of the day now. Because you have to, especially when you started all over again, you have to know the little victories that's happening. Not just when you reach the gold medal. You have to recognize the little victories that happen every day. Well, I try to do this every day in the end of the day to remember that sometimes you think you had a tough day, but you started to remember, oh, today I did this, all this happened, and all these other things happened. So it's not a 100% bad day. So I try to journal to this accountability now about my day and remember the good things that happened, the little victories, even the bad things, and try to realize what I did that it happened, what I could have done different, what I could have acted different in this situation, and always try to take the best of every situation. And of course, I read a lot of books about spirituality. I watch videos on YouTube about spirituality, self-development, all these guys that talk about self-development. But I'm always trying to be a little better today than I was yesterday and try to always improve myself, going to the gym, doing sports, and trying to keep healthy. I think most important is being your best friend. Jordan Peterson said something that take care of yourself as someone that is your best friend. I think it's this quote, because when you take care of your best friend sometimes better than yourself. So he said this quote that try to take care of yourself as you are your best friend. So so is this try to be my best friend, try to understand the things of my life, and of course the memento mori, and remember the death, and all this
Yeah.
philosophy that is behind this.
Yeah, 100%, man. I could not agree more about that. I haven't heard that quote, but I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, kind of switching the frame up from taking care of yourself, because taking care of yourself to taking care of yourself as if you were your
Yes.
friend or, a loved one. Like, I think we're a lot of times too harsh on ourselves. We're our biggest critic, we're our biggest doubter, but
Yes.
you wouldn't say those things to somebody that you are truly rooting for, that you want to see win, right? You wouldn't tell them, oh, you suck at this, you suck at that. You would try and give them a pedestal to stand on. You try and support them like you would your best friend. So I think that's huge, man. I like
Yeah,
that
for
one.
sure.
I'm gonna have to steal that one from you, or steal it from Jordan.
Yeah, actually from Jordan Peterson, from his book, The 12 Rules of Life. And another thing that I would say is to not always trying to take some challenge, because this podcast is a challenge for me, because I don't talk English every day, and I'm not 100% fluent in English. So this is somehow this is a challenge for me. So every day I'm trying to challenge myself in different ways to being a better person. So this podcast is also a test for me to being a better person, to come here and speak in English. That's not something that I do every day, and so every day I try to take a challenge and being a better person. For example, in the gym, I try to do one more rep, try to take a more weight. These things, always try to challenge yourself to being a better person each day. Even a little challenge, something different. If you go out to walk, today I'm gonna walk 5 minutes more. These things that always trying to challenge yourself.
Yeah, I mean, next thing you know, 2 months down the line, you'll look back and you'll be doing, you won't even recognize your former version of yourself, right? If you're just doing
Yes.
those little small adjustments every single day, adding on to the stack, and eventually you look back and be unrecognizable. But hey, man, you were killing it today with the English. Like that's so impressive. You're able to do a podcast in your second language. So
Yeah, for real,
shout
thanks.
out to you for that, man.
Yeah, just the Taylor Swift part that I forgot the words, but that's okay. As I said, it's a really, really challenge for me, because listening and reading in English, for me, that's okay, because it's something that I do every day, especially listening to music. Every day I listening to music in English. Talking English is not something. It's something that I do every day. So sometimes I forgot the word, I forgot the verb, and it gave me all this crazy thing. But it made me realize maybe it's something that I should do more. That to speak in English more times, more often.
Yeah, man. Hey, if you don't flex that skill, it's gonna vanish pretty quickly.
Yes,
And I'll
yes.
tell you, if we were trying to do a podcast in Portuguese, it would have lasted 5 minutes. We would have been done a long time ago. So yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
maybe someday we can do my podcast in Portuguese, and I call you to go there and interview you in Portuguese.
Yeah, I'll start practicing now. I'll need a
Yeah,
few
yeah,
years, but
yeah. Here's a challenge for you and to learn Portuguese to do our podcast.
yeah, yeah, that's worth it, man. I mean, I gotta just get over there and start just immersing in the culture again. Because when I've lived there for like a month, the most I've visited was for like a month or 2 months. I would get so good, like my Portuguese would come back. I would be speaking with my family every day. I would start to like think in Portuguese or dream in Portuguese, and then I would go back to the United States for 2 years, and then I would come back, and I just never had that consistent time there to build it up.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's what I got to do is just spend more time there, spend more extended stays in Brazil, really.
Cool. Yeah, and Portuguese it's not a easy language. Have a lot of even for myself it's some difficulties to speak in Portuguese, especially the verbs, and whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful language though.
Yeah.
Well, Paulo, it's been great talking to you, man. I really appreciate your time. I think we really got into some cool topics here, and I'm excited to share this with everybody. So yeah, again, appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll keep in touch and keep up with each other on our journeys.
Thanks, man. Well, really thank you for this opportunity. We talked last week about this, and here we are. And well, for me, it was really nice time that I had here. I hope someday someone listen to this and maybe change the point of view about life, about death, you know. And if anyone wants to reach me, you can find me on Instagram, paulooliveira.eu, and also on YouTube, Paulo Oliveira. I'm there to help someone if you're interested to learn about more about purpose and self-development, the copyright and music also, and the lawyer and
Hmm.
the law stuff. But well, man, it was really, really great for me to be thanks to accepting me. And as I said, it was really challenged myself to speak here in English for 1 hour, and I don't know if for sure I'm a better person now. I ended the day a better person than I started today. Of course, the podcast really helped to improve myself.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm glad we could set this venue up for that, and I think that's a good example for anybody out there that's listening to this to try and do something hard today. You know, try and do one thing that's harder than yesterday. Try and do one little thing that's gonna push you in the right direction, just like Paulo did today. So I think with that, we'll wrap it up for the night, man. I know it's getting late over there in Brazil, but muito prazer, and we'll talk soon.
All right, man. Muito obrigado e valeu, galera. Foi prazer aí. Thanks so much.
Ciao, ciao.
Tchau.